and whether you should potentially consolidate multiple websites and brands that you may be running. Let's imagine that today you are running sci-fi toys and games.com, which is right on the borderline, right? Like in my opinion, that's right on the borderline of barely tolerable. Like it could be brandable, but it's not great. And I don't love the sci-fi in here because, well, partially because of how the Sci-Fi Channel, right, the entity that broadcasts stuff on television, has chosen to delineate their spelling. Sci-fi can be misinterpreted as to how it's spelled. I don't love having to have "and" in a domain name. This is long, all sorts of stuff. Let's say you also own StarToys.com, but you haven't used it, right? Previously, StarToys.com has been redirecting to Sci-Fi Toys and Games.com, and you're thinking, well, man, is it the right time to make this move? Should I make this change now? Should I wait for the future? Well, these are the questions that I would urge you to consider. How memorable and amplifiable is your current brand? Word of mouth, too. Will you maintain your current brand name long term? So if you know that sometime in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you do want to move to Star Toys, I would actually strongly urge you to do that right now. Right now, because the longer you wait, the longer it will take to build up the signals around the new domain, and the more pain you'll potentially incur by having to keep branding this and working on this old brand name. So I would strongly urge you, if you know you're going to make the move eventually, make it today. Take the pain now rather than more pain later. Can or have you tested brand preference with your target audience, target customers? I would urge you to find two different groups. One who are loyal customers today, people who know Sci-Fi Toys and Games.com and have used it, and two, people who are potential customers but aren't yet familiar with it. That is a great way to help validate your ideas, especially if you're forced to bring data to a table by executives or other stakeholders. And the last thing I think about is imagine, I want you to either imagine or even model this out. Mathematically model it out. If your traffic growth rate, so let's say you're growing at 10% year over year right now, if that improved 1%, 5%, or 10% annually with a new brand name, would you make the move? So knowing that you might take a short-term hit, but then that your growth rate would be incrementally higher in years to come, how big would that growth rate need to be? And I would say that in general, if I were thinking about these two domains, granted, this is a hard case because you don't know exactly how much more brandable or word of mouthable or amplifiable your existing one or your new one might be compared to your existing one. Well, gosh, my general thing here is if you think that's going to be a substantive percentage, say 5% plus, almost always it's worth it because compound growth rate over a number of years will mean that you're winning big time, right? Remember that growth rate is different than raw growth. If you can incrementally increase your growth rate, you get tremendously more traffic when you look back, 2, 3, 4, 5 years later. All right, everyone, hope you've enjoyed this edition of Whiteboard Friday. Look forward to some great comments, and we'll see you again next week.